this car, and so we'd hook up on trains, and we went out CN, and we stopped at every city that had an Eaton store.
Oh, okay.
Boring. And of course,
Yeah,
we
for
toured the
kids.
Eaton stores.
For a kid, yeah.
We also toured other things, of course, but and then for meals, well, we always ate at Eaton's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
and but then I think I'm trying to think. We traveled by night, as I remember. They must have been hooking us up to freight trains or something, you know. Because,
Wow.
Did you have berths?
yeah,
to
we had,
sleep
you know,
in?
the old fashioned,
Yeah. Yeah, good.
Did you have a chaperone?
He
Well,
said
yeah,
chaperones and teachers.
There were two
Just
teachers from
teachers.
Toronto. And
Okay.
there was
No parents.
chaperones, and then there was one or two guys from Eaton's, but plus a hired photographer.
Mm-hmm.
But he joined the whole thing in Winnipeg, so he was probably based in Winnipeg. And then, anyway, we went out, we stopped and we started in Winnipeg, and then went to Saskatoon, and then Jasper,
Edmonton.
Edmonton, yeah, of course.
Following the Yellowhead.
Yeah.
Yeah, the following Yellowhead. Then we stopped in Jasper. I think we go over late Jasper, and then on down to over the Yellowhead, all the way to Vancouver, and then in Vancouver, of course, the train didn't go across.
Mm-hmm.
Not even then. So we abandoned the rail car and took the boat over, and then we stayed in the Empress, and that was
How special is
that's how we got to the Empress.
Yeah.
What a journey.
And
Really, really.
Then we came back CP, so and then we came back through the mountains and through Lake Louise and Emerald Lake.
Wow.
And
Oh, wow.
so that was
Mm.
the first look at the mountains.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
And you were smitten, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, but it was so about a reach, and then then later on, as it turned out, just 2 years later, I had this opportunity to have a summer job at Lake Louise. And,
Oh man.
and so that really changed my life from a point of view of understanding what the West was,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
and Easterners don't really know until they see it,
It's true.
until you feel it and
Yeah.
you take part in some of it.
Mm-hmm.
But
So you worked at the Chateau.
yeah, I worked at the Chateau.
Wow.
What was your job there?
I was a gardener.
Okay. They have quite a lot of garden and floral displays there.
Well, yeah, but then I got lucky because we had our head gardener was a professional gardener. He was a Dane who had his own flower farm on Lulu Island.
Mm.
He'd go up for the summers, but Chateau at that time was strictly 3 months, middle of June to the middle of, and then it sat empty.
Wow.
Oh wow.
And
It's hard to think about.
well, it is hard to think about when you actually think about building management, because
Really?
Yeah.
they'd shut off
Yeah.
what heating system there was, and they would put right in the middle of the lobby. If you can imagine anybody doing this, they put a furnace right in the middle of the lobby,
Oh.
and it was wood fired, and or it might have been coal fired, but there was wood around too. And it was all looked after by the professional Swiss guides. They had a cabin right at the lakeside of Lake Louise.
Wow. Wow.
So that was their winter jobs, custodian of the schools.
That was amazing. It reminds me of that Jack Nicholson movie where he goes to maintain the hotel. It's a horror movie. Does anyone know?
No.
But he takes this job to go to this remote hotel and maintain it through the winter. And then he and his family,
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah, it sounds
it'll
like
come
it.
to me in a moment. But
Shining or something.
The Shining, yes, thank
I
you.
remember when you watched it.
Yeah.
So that's what
So-
that was about.
So that's remarkable though, because when we think of Louise today, it's ski country. So was the ski industry
No,
not well
no,
developed?
skiing
Okay.
there was no skiing.
Okay.
Well, there was, but they were all European fanatics that would walk up. and
Oh.
Right,
Oh, I
right,
see.
right.
Wow.
That was what the skiing consisted of.
Yes.
And the skiing across the valley hadn't been developed yet.
So what was the first big hill to be constructed? You think was it Louise or was it
Louise, yeah. Well,
what are the other two hills?
Norquay-
Sunshine and Norquay? Yeah.
Well, Norquay in Banff, it was second. Sunshine was first, and then I think Norquay was.
Mm.
And I'm not even sure Norquay is still operating, but.
What an incredible edifice though, eh? When you think, and it's only used 3 months of the year.
The Chateau.
Yeah, the
Oh,
Chateau.
it's remarkable.
Well, I
Well,
guess
that-
all those train chateaus, you
Well,
know.
that all changed, around 70, I guess. I guess around 72 or something like that. That changed.
Mm.
And then when it changed hands, and when the CPR got out of it completely, that really it became a more of a commercial operation.
Mm.
And year round, then they were really going in for the skiing and the.
Mhm.
You stayed in Banff, not like Louise.
We just came from Banff Springs Hotel, which
Just now?
we've been to
Oh,
a
okay.
few times and really love, but we also love the Chateau. Christine's a big fan of any Fairmont property, so we're just going through all the favorites, the Empress, But the last time we were at the Chateau, it was savagely cold. Like I would say in the -30s.
It was -30s, yes.
Yeah.
The wind chill.
And I remember walking around the shops or around if you know the shops have some access outside, and it was just frigid in that corridor, even in the concourse.
The
So,
wind.
so I can just imagine like maintaining that building through the winter would be
Well, actually.
quite a challenge.
Actually, just after Rosie died, Christmas came up, and Peter came over from Europe, and unbeknownst to me, he had booked us into the Chateau
Oh, nice.
just a few days before Christmas.
Wow.
Well,
That was this year, this Christmas?
no, this was in 23,
Okay,
or 22.
okay,
Christmas
oh,
of
okay,
22.
lovely.
So anyway, I said, fine, but as it turned out, the temperature was going to be 40 below.
Oh,
Well, I said, well, okay, we're going to take my car, and I know that there's parking, but it
Yes.
isn't indoor parking. It's
Yeah.
covered, but it's still outside.
Yes.
And I said, I think that there's plugs,
Mm.
but then he said, well, does my car have a
A plug.
plug?
Yeah.
Well, I
A
couldn't
block
find one.
a block
Couldn't
heater?
find one, so then
Oh,
he
plug.
says, well, I think we can buy one of these little blankets, a heating blanket
Oh,
mm.
that has magnets on it. And you just stick it under the
Oh,
oil.
yeah.
The oil.
Huh.
I said, well, we better first check the manual and see whether it's an aluminum engine.
Mm.
And that's what it was. So
wow.
And tell us why that's significant.
because the magnets won't hold.
Magnets.
Oh, see, okay.
I put that
I'm like,
together.
magnets, aluminum, I'm good with that. That's cool. All right. Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah, that's because my aluminum pots won't work on my induction oven.
No, that's
my
right.
induction stove.
Oh.
just that's a funny thing,
Yeah,
you know.
I was like, oh, now I gotta get a new set of pots.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uncle John, what's thinking about you? So, how old were you when you took the job at Lake Louise?
18.
So, we have an 18-year-old at home.
Oh, okay.
What's your I won't get to. What's your life advice for a young man? He's just gotten out of high school. I could say other things, but I'll leave it wide open. What's your life
Doesn't know
advice?
what he wants to do.
This particular young man has started a business program, but beyond that doesn't have any clear ambitions. But do you have any life advice for him?
I don't, because
Okay.
it's all different now.
It's too broad.
Whatever advice I would have is totally out of date.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that is a sad fact. But
He is taking macro and microeconomics, right?
He happens to be this term, yes.
As part of
Yeah.
the term.
Mhm. But in general terms, spanning the ages of time, I mean, you would agree, get out there in those early years and be ambitious, right? And
you should
work.
travel around. I think travel.
Okay.
Travel.
Yeah.
Would you agree that travel really is a?
Well, we enjoy it.
He did go
We
down to
didn't
Panama.
have the money
Was it
back when we
Panama?
were 18.
Well,
Yeah.
well,
With the missions trip, he was in
well,
Panama.
the thing was, if you really,
Mexico, okay.
if you
Mexico.
were really, you know, if you wanted to travel enough, you could figure it out how to do it. Remember, you used to be able to buy these books of Europe on $5 a day.
Yeah. That's
Oh,
true.
Goodness.
If you're prepared to be really scrappy about it, you could grab a backpack. As long as you get to Europe, you can sort of bum your way across the continent, right? Like,
Well, I don't know today, but it certainly, I know lots of people that did that.
Yeah, with hostels.
Katya stayed in hostels all through Spain.
hostels
Well,
and
yeah, and you know, when we lived in New Zealand, you know, my job there was to, I won't go into it anyway, but I was gonna be a boss and I had to hire a whole bunch of people to do something. Well, there weren't any people there between the age of 20 and 23 or 24. Where'd they all go? Well, they're all on their
Canada.
OE, overseas experience.
Ah.
OE.
Oh.
And apparently worldwide that it's understood that under the age of 25, or maybe 25 is included, 25 and under, you have a sort of a open visa to go anywhere and work. You know?
Wow.
If you're a Kiwi or just for anyone?
Well, it was true for Kiwis and Aussies.
Okay.
Uh,
That explains why Banff and Canmore and Whistler are mostly
Kiwis and Aussies.
Kiwis
sure.
and always, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's
No,
very
that's-
cultural.
That's just
deep
part of it,
rooted.
you know. And,
Yeah.
The employees and the, yeah.
and they'd come back and pick up a tricycle, or some of them would come back, let's put it this way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in a way, I suppose it was kind of good for them to have a relief on their overpopulation problem. But there were a lot of Kiwis and Australians, came here to ski and then stayed, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're beautiful countries over there too.
Well, I'd be living in New Zealand if we weren't so far from everybody else.
Yeah, that's a long. It is a long. How long is the flight from Vancouver?
Well, Auckland to Vancouver is one flight, and I think it's about 18 hours.
18.
Oh, that's the same as direct to the Philippines.
Well, I was just gonna say, it can't be too much different.
Is it actually 18?
You go to Auckland, you go to Brisbane. You can now. You couldn't even, like when I was working down there, you couldn't do that. It's interesting, how much commerce changes worldwide because of one factor. The two-engine aircraft were becoming sufficiently, what's the right word here, reliable, very reliable, that the IATA okayed two-engine jet aircraft for over ocean flights.
Right.
And the day they did that, all of a sudden, it was an explosion.
Oh my God.
World travel.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
it does change the whole look.
It really did. And with our first trip to Hawaii, it was before that time, and we had to go to LA, and then we went to we were trying to get to Honolulu. Well, we had to stop first at Hilo before we get to Honolulu. And 707 or something like that.
We've been to Hilo.
I saw the light came on. That seems to be on a time.
On a timer?
Every time.
There it is.
Yeah, see that that's the island that we're standing on, and then that's Haystack Island there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh.
And this is where we pick up blueberries over here.
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And my mother had, you know, artistic license, so she moved
Sure.
Haystack,
Sure.
you know, out into the bay.
Yes,
like.
yes, it's true, it's true.
It's actually, you know, closer to that left hand.
It is, yeah, I see that.
Actually, this is where I would like it to be.
Yeah, but yeah, you have to have a little bit of, you know,
You have license.
everything can't be dead on, you
Yeah.
know.
So did anyone swim out to Haystack?
Oh, no, but.
Too far.
Well, actually, nobody ever swam out of that particular side, because remember, it was all muddy bottom, and there were a lot of overturned stumps and stuff in the
I was telling Tanis about an experience I had taking a canoe around the island.
Oh, yeah.
I was by myself, and so I left the bay, you know, went around this way, but didn't realize the wind was picking up on that side.
Oh, yeah.
And it was really hard work to get around. I thought, well, what's the worst that can happen? I'll just drift down to Dorset and hope they figure out where I am. I just had to work really hard to get past that wind. You know, of course, the wind is picking up the front end, the light end of the canoe, you know, and so I managed to get to the other side of the island where it wasn't nearly so windy. And I told Tanis that, she said, I had the same experience. Of course, none of us ever wore life jackets or anything
No,
like
that's
that.
right.
Wow.
Paddling a one man, paddling a canoe solo in the wind is not for the faint of heart.
No.
'Cause the wind will really catch the
Yeah,
front.
no. I'm sure you've got lots of stories at the island, from the island.
Well, oh, yes, of course, because, you know, we were effectively marooned there until I was,
For the
you know,
summer.
until I was 18. So,
Yeah.
you know, of course, we had visitors, and that kind of made the difference. But also, we rented one end of the island there during the war years, and just after the war too, for a few years. And those families represented, you know, some alternate to our own family.
Yeah.
So when you say maroon there, you're joking, I know, but do you mean like every summer it would just be school's out and we're going to the island, that's
Well,
it?
Grandpa was a teacher,
For the whole.
so,
Yeah, he was a teacher, so, and it was less expensive to live on the island than it was to live in Toronto.
sure.
He explained that to me. He said, how come we can afford it? And I said, well,
Oh, yeah.
our neighbors are also, he says, well,
Yeah.
I inherited the island
And there was
it's
so
less
little
expensive.
expense there. Because
Well, also because there's no way to spend money.
Oh yeah, that's true.
true.
No
I mean,
movies, no
that's
restaurants.
the
Yeah.
secret
Unless you got to
recipe.
Huntsville.
Right.
Unless you got to Huntsville or some such place.
Yeah, exactly.
Your day trip with your 5.5 horsepower motor.
Oh, yeah.
You know that it's kind of neat to hear that, because when you hear of the cottage country experience in the Golden Horseshoe, it's always, you always think it's sort of an upper middle class thing, but your family did it for the opposite, or sort of for savings.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, it really was, and it was an outlet for my dad, of course.
Yeah.
And it was an opportunity for my mother to paint.
Yes, for sure.
So,
And didn't you have a goat, at least
oh, yeah,
for one summer?
I remember.
Yeah.
I was 4, and it was a Mexican standoff. He was just growing horns, and I could remember standing there. Someone with this towel, I guess. I could remember standing there holding his horns, and he was kind of butt me.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of memories. That particular goat loved dishwater.
Because
Gross.
what?
He loved dishwater.
Dishwater.
You could taste all
So I take it the
summer.
detergent was not too strong. Otherwise that
Well,
goat would be sick.
We didn't have detergent those days. It was just soap.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
of
okay.
course.
I don't know.
Of course.
And they say a goat's stomach is pretty hardy, right? So I guess they can
Yeah.
handle anything.
Yeah. Oh, that's great experience of
Yeah.
ours, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, it's if you just wait long enough, it might come back, because to be somewhat affordable, because the the bubbles burst now on
Cottages.
cottages for Toronto, yeah.
Hmm.
And do you remember the name McMurtry?
Yeah.
Yeah, there were McMurtries that our son Andrew and his wife know in Nanaimo, and they had an uncle or something that was from the Dorset area.
Oh, is
So I
that right?
thought, wow, it'd be fun to track all that down, but
Yeah.
never have done yet.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So it was kind of
Yeah,
surreal.
and then there were the natives, you know, that they actually lived there year round.
okay,
Not on islands, but,
okay.
Oh, so there were some reserves in the area?
well, no, there were no Indian reserves anywhere near the lake.
Mm.
It was just settlers.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I can
Land
remember.
was cheap, and
Yeah,
yet, I mean, it was an awful existence. You know, there
Yeah.
was so little work for them,
right.
and so hard to do anything agriculturally, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's awfully hard. And I remember my dad used to have the saws sharpened professionally, quotes professional. Well, it turned out the professional was a guy who was just living on the margin with his family in a little shack off the road to Baysville, you know. And he sharpened saws. Well, he got the custom, that was how. And then remember the ice house?
Yes,
Well, somebody had to fill it every year, right?
yes, yes.
And that was another local
Oh.
job, was to get the team of horses, and it took 2 horses and a sleigh, and they'd go out in the lake and cut the ice and load it up. I don't know whether they could all do it all in one load or not, I doubt it.
Wow.
And
But
all
they-
the sawdust.
And they would get, it's hard to imagine them getting up that hill and, to where the ice house was.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
So the horses are pulling ice from the lake up to the ice house?
yeah, on the sleigh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're pulling it across the lake too,
Mhm.
they're on the lake, and I guess the snow would typically be all that deep for horses.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
But,
No,
Horses built this country.
that costs $25 a year for a whole summer's worth of ice.
and that was the
Okay.
refrigeration we had was the ice box.
The ice
Yeah.
box.
In the,
You gotta keep that ice cream cold
yeah.
somehow.
Well, something chilly, anyway, the milk, I guess, if you had.
Well,
it.
the ice was cut in big blocks, way too big for the
Yeah, the ice box,
box.
yeah, so you had to chip it.
So what we went up to the ice house, and you'd sort of dig down at the beginning of the summer, and you were way up high, and
Yes,
you'd dig down
it's cool.
and scrabble off, a block, and it was far too heavy for me. My dad would arm wrestle that thing onto a chute and get it down to the ground outside, and then we would go at it with the 2-man saw. So
Wow.
cut it down to size, and then
That's-
the
yeah, you guys-
bigger piece would get left to go back in go into the cavity that had been left by taking it out, and put all the sawdust back over it, and get the ice tongs and walk it down to the lake and dip it in the lake to get all the
That's amazing.
sawdust off.
That is incredible.
We have a beautiful photo, color photo in an easel in our bookshelves in the living room in our place. And it's at the beach end where Grandpa and I think Papa are sawing a log on a workhorse,
Yeah,
and you're there. You're
Oh, yeah.
about 5 years old.
oh yeah.
I just love it. I just love it. And there's a lot of resemblance between you and our grandson Henrik.
Oh, is that
Of course,
right?
whenever I say that, Shannon quickly says, "Oh, he's like my side of the family." And I think, okay, fine, fine. But really, I mean, it's quite amazing when I see pictures of you being little, and I think, "Ooh, that looks so familiar in Henrik."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Anyway, would you like some I can make, anything I can make with a kettle and hot water. And I've got decaf, I've got regular instant coffee, bed. Some people, need help, like socks
Right.
in the morning and all kinds
Yes.
of stuff like that. Okay, now who's got,
now, what did you want to drink, Uncle John?
well, I'm gonna have tea.
Okay, I would have loved to have gotten it for you.
That's okay, that's all right.
Here's who we're sitting with. We've got Nancy, Bill, Christine, and me. What's the date today, Doc?
Wednesday.
Yep. I'd say 26th,
It's the 26th
yes, of March.
because tomorrow is payday for seniors.
Oh,
Oh, yes?
27th of the month?
The third last banking day,
Oh, okay.
so it varies. But
I should text my parents.
tomorrow is
Tomorrow.
the third last banking day of March.
Right.
I saw that.
The reason is because I have conflict. I have another that I really need. Well, I'm told I have to
okay.
have it. It was about 2 weeks after Dorothy died. And Deanna was visiting in my house, fortunately, and not even 2 weeks. It was just 1 week, I guess. And anyway, I came down for breakfast and sat down, and Deanna was doing something, and I just collapsed on the floor. I just fell over.
Wow.
one of those sudden things where you just lose consciousness without any
Wow.
warning.
Wow.
Wow.
So Deanna bundled me up, went down to emergency, and then of course emergency. You can imagine in a large city like this how long it takes. It was about 6 hours, I guess.
Wow.
And they checked everything, and said, "Well, you're fine, you're good to go." So I'm home. Next morning, I was in the shower. The same thing happened. Only this time, I had just enough warning to sit down in the shower first.
Oh, good.
Wow.
So,
Because that
I
could've
didn't.
been bad. Yeah.
Anyway, at this time, I went back to the hospital, and this time they decided that I had COVID.
Oh.
Well, the first time I'd gone in, they hadn't even tested me for COVID. And I'm
my
pretty
goodness.
sure I must have got the COVID that on the first time I went in.
Oh.
Probably got it at the hospital.
Yes.
Exactly. You know that there's
Yeah, go to the hospital and get sick.
exactly. And that's what happened. So I was in the hospital for about 3 or 4 days, and now it was coming up on the 1st of December, and so looked around and found a place like this. Not quite as nice, but it was a place like this. I was in there for about a month. But the meds, anyway, are AFib meds.
Oh, okay.
Because apparently they detected AFib while I was in the hospital recovering from the COVID.
Wow. Wow. Well, that's very interesting.
At that point I had five COVID shots.
Wow.
So I didn't have a very bad case of it at all. I had a cough,
Okay.
and I guess, but I was so run down, because I'm sure you've been, all of you at some point, been a nursemaid to someone who's quite ill. Well, you just really don't look after yourself very well, and so that's why. So anyway, there's a conflict between but I still have the pills, and I can take them if I feel I want to not make a.
You just take it symptomatically.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I have the prescription here. I've had dry AMD for 20 years,
Okay.
but I still have roughly 27.
I'll put it on your kitchen, on your bathroom
Yeah,
counter.
just like that.
So do you take eye drops every night?
No, in fact, what happened was that Dorothy developed this wet, so we got her into treatment for that, and you're going to love this. It's just an injection into your eyeball.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Now,
I've heard of it.
it's one of those things that gets you really hit the guts of you.
You don't want to think about it.
You want to think about it. Well, the reality is there's nothing to it, and sure enough, after Dorothy got into it, and it was sort of funny because the very first time that we went there, we had neighbors they both were on medication, and they said, well, you know, it's an awful idea, but don't worry about it. There'll be nothing to it. And I was with Dorothy, of course, and she's in the chair, and the guys set her all up with the anesthetic first, and then he disappears out the door to go and get the syringe with the actual injection.
I know.
He comes back into the syringe, and he just walks in the door, and she says, "Ow!" And it was kind of good because everybody laughed, you know, it just broke it broke the tension for her, you know.
Yeah.
So the reality is that, and then I subsequently, and she only had it in one eye,
Mm.
and then subsequently I got it both eyes wet, so I'm
Wow.
both eyes wet now for about 2
Wow.
years.
Okay.
And so you go in and get the shots. Well, when you're going to get the shot, first of all, go through a whole barrage of eye tests.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
which are ordinary tests, you know,
Mhm.
but it results in they have to dilate your
Right.
eyes. So that's the only discomfort. The whole thing is getting home because you can't drive
Yes.
with your eyes dilated.
Right.
It's not that bad.
And then they're putting so much gawk in there that you get this feeling of just as if there were sand in there.
Oh.
But that's entirely to do with the anesthetics. You know?
Oh, okay.
And
Interesting.
but so you start off on typically on 2 or 3 weeks, and you keep going back. And every time you go, they have quite good cameras now that'll take a 3D picture of the
Mhm.
retina, and
Yep.
that can show them the actual 3-dimensional little humps. And so,
Mm.
It's
and
amazing.
with wet, what it is, it's a little sort of a bulge caused by fluid interstitially in between, you know, layers of the retina. And so
Interesting.
this medication, with time, works just through interchange through the membranes. It will reduce that.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Totally, it'll get rid of it totally. And the question is how long? And you start off with about 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Anyway, I'm up to 15 weeks now.
Wow.
Okay.
So that's you know, that's three better more than three months.
Wow.
Is that all under Alberta? I was going to say Manitoba health
Alberta.
insurance.
Yeah, it's all covered. And I understand the shots are like this intervention is 2 years old, but the shots are $1,200 a piece.
Whoa.
You get one in each eye.
Is it any wonder anybody wants to come to Canada?
And that's just for the
Covered.
for the medicine.
Yeah. Oh, that among other things. Yeah.
It's a patented medicine, of course, and there's only about 3 or 4 different ones, and they try different ones. And
Wow.
so anyway, I'm on a fairly long leash, you know, and so it's not a big deal, you know, except that you do have to, back in your mind, got to think, well, where am I going to be in 3 months' time? How am I going to find that doctors that will understand that procedure and know that? But I think it's probably worldwide now.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm getting an eye procedure, but you have to have 4 of them within 10 days,
Oh, really?
and they're $500 each, so it's
Oh.
It's a
pretty
study.
free.
It's a
Where's the
study.
study?
He's in a
But
study.
it's not a needle. I don't know exactly what they do, but it's not a
You'll
needle.
find out.
I'll
Well,
find out.
we haven't started yet.
No, I didn't
Okay.
want to start before I came away.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll find out.
But that's for your
It's for the one eye that has some AMD in it.
that has wet AMD.
No, it's dry.
Oh, okay.
But they
Well, that's a
say
different- that's a
they say
different-
this will, what's the word?
Yeah.
Improve, let's say.
Yeah. Well, it'll be something totally different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Because it's
would
a
think
different
so.
condition that you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, it's,
Because of my age and because we know the doctor, I'm somehow getting it half price.
Okay.
That's still $1,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
now coming back to the tremor, Deanna, was she using the same medication? The
Yeah. I mean,
propofol?
she can't take the full strength, so because for she gets a side effect that's not
Okay.
healthy. So she mostly just lives with it,
And she's okay, like, I mean, I often think how awkward that would be for a medical doctor to have a shaky hand.
Well, yeah, but you know, and she says, well, just stay with me, and she says she has very, very good control, you know.
Yes,
And she'll do it. It didn't stop her doing any of the surgical
good,
procedure.
good, yeah,
Um,
oh, that's good.
she let her vet license lapse.
Oh,
All of this visit, she was talking about maybe resurrecting it.
well, yeah, the animals don't care if you have a shaky hand.
No, but people around you wondering what you're doing. Yeah.
So is she in a clinic or something? Where is she
Yeah.
in Nova Scotia?
She's in the Annapolis Valley.
Okay,
If you know that area.
not,
Yes,
Grape,
yeah,
grape,
you know it better than
is it grape growing?
Well, her nearest town is Middleton.
Oh,
Okay.
my aunt was from
I was
Middleton.
gonna say, I've heard that name, yeah, way back in the
It's
day.
just up the road from Paradise.
Yeah. Well, there's a
Actually-
paradise in Newfoundland too.
Yeah, just up the road in
Which
St.
we
John's,
live
just up
fairly
the road
close
to
to.
Paradise,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, she's just on. She has a hobby farm, about 15 acres, on one of the roads that goes over the South Mountain. They
Wow.
call it a mountain. It's about
That's so funny.
400 feet high.
I haven't heard
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't heard of Middleton in years.
No, that is very cool,
Yeah.
very cool.
And you know they have a ring road now that goes all the way around the province. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And that's something new from me. So I hadn't been there in 20 years. I guess it was maybe 25 years. So I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, I keep wanting to make one trip there before we.
We keep talking
Before
about
we
what,
make a trip to glory.
we keep talking about things we're gonna do before we die, and when we die, and.
It's called the bucket list.
The bucket list. Yeah.
No, I really would like to go there. Phil and Hannah went there a year ago, and I thought, and Lois and David went there.
We've been there, we've been
We've
to
been
Nova
there, but I
Scotia.
just have such good memories. We almost moved to Halifax at one point, Tim. I don't know if you ever knew that.
Okay. Well, I knew Edmonton was a possibility at one point. But
Edmonton was a possibility when we lived in Winnipeg, but when we lived in St. John's, we could have moved to Halifax.
well, Christine and I enjoyed our Halifax visit
It was lovely.
this last fall,
Yeah.
in September. Uncle John, I wanted to ask you, as someone who has seen so much of this country and loves this country, first of all, did you ever think you would see a day when the U.S. president is openly talking about annexation? And secondly, what are your thoughts about it?
I refuse to answer. You might intend to incriminate me. No. You know what? I didn't have a TV here until just before Christmas.
Oh boy.
And I thought, you know, I really am interested in watching and making sure that Trump gets defeated. And so I bought that. And the electronics in here are not great. The problem is that they treat the whole thing as if it's a hotel. And so we have Wi-Fi in all rooms. But it's like when you check into a hotel room, you know, you log on to your name and your room
Oh
number,
yeah, your guess.
and that's it. Okay, there's no opportunity to have your own internet feed
Yeah.
with your own
Got it.
modem and all the rest.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
You can't do that. And as a result, you can't have a subnet, so you can't have your computer and your printers all in a little net. You know?
Mm.
So the one thing you can do with the modern TV is you can get the internet through Wi-Fi,
Mhm.
and so that's how I got YouTube and all the
Yeah.
other stuff. But what I've taken to though after Trump was elected and after after it was elected, it wasn't so bad, but once he was in office, I had to stop watching it
Mhm.
for my own mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
I
know.
don't know how you folks feel. I don't want to I don't wanna try to change anything you believe about it.
None of us here is gonna be offended about anything you say. Just count on that.
Oh, and none of us are eagerly awaiting our U.S. citizenship. That's not we're, and on that point, really, all of our national leaders, it's been an all partisan response to say never.
Yeah, exactly.
So Canadians are pretty united.
Except
Mostly.
Alberta, except
Mostly.
Alberta.
Except what?
We
Alberta.
Oh, yeah, that's
right,
true.
Alberta, yes.
Yeah, just where you live.
Yeah, that's true. You're in it.
Our premier
Yes.
is, she's a lot like Trump. She has no head, no brains in her head, and she just goes, wherever she thinks she can get a vote, and how she got to power. Well, she first of all was a turncoat. She started in politics in one party and didn't get elected to be their leader, so she quit and jumped and moved into the other.
Mm.
She's now a conservative, UCP, United
Yeah,
Conservative Party.
yeah.
Right.
And so, and they're all asleep. So
They're all what?
Asleep.
Oh, asleep, yeah.
So there she is.
Well, she's definitely defending the oil interests in Alberta.
Well, that's her job, and that part no problem at all. But she's now, and see, I would never ever watch. I have watched in the past Fox News,
Mm.
and it's on. It's available to watch, but I would never turn it on. But only because it just.
You can watch it for entertainment.
Well, yeah, but it's entertainment that it gets you right in the gut.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
In terms of despair, because and how he was able to get the I don't know how to phrase it, how broad it would be, but to get the Christian vote,
Mm.
it was just, and he himself is such a sleazebag.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, not a very good history there,
I mean,
that's for sure.
how can, there he is, he's been bankrupted twice, and people say, oh, he's a dynamite. Well, yeah, you can get to be a billionaire if your father leaves you one,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can get bankrupted twice. Of course, going bankrupt is a strategy, you know that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
He says so. Yeah.
And it's a strategy. And sure, and how about that casino that he built and bankrupted himself on
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't like that.
in New Jersey, and didn't pay the bills to all the people that built the casino.
Wow, wow.
So his name is mud in New Jersey.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's a strange phenomenon when evangelical Americans stand up and hold him up. I think, like, really, of all the leaders we've seen in the last few decades, he's not your shining example of integrity and family values.
Exactly.
I just get tired of tariff news every night.
Well, that.
Yeah.
All
And
of
I think that's all, that's
Yeah.
out of a 20-minute news thing
Yeah.
on YouTube, half of it is about tariffs, and I think,
Would you
I don't
know?
wanna watch this again.
Yeah.
Would you know what the term the Project 2025 means?
I've heard of it,
Is it
No.
European?
No,
No?
this is something that was cooking in the. Why don't you share what you know about it? I know.
I print, it's 900 pages long. I printed off the first 100.
It's like a conservative manifesto.
It's a
right?
conservative manifesto put together by just about maybe 20, 25 organizations that are all conservative,
Mhm.
based all over the U.S. A lot of them based in Washington, and it's conservatives that want to return to the good old days,
Mhm.
where blacks were slaves, and where they had to be white,
Mhm.
and women, well, maybe we'll let you still vote, I don't know. But that's the tenor of it. And then, of course, Fox News gets it going, right? Well, Trump was asked directly, would this perhaps be out of the Project 2025 playbook? So I never even heard of it.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh yeah, sure, right. Well, but you know, one of the authors of the thing is in his cabinet.
Is in where?
In his cabinet.
Is that Rubio or?
Oh,
No,
cabinet.
well, not Rubio, but the guy who is his executive. I could find out if you
Sure.
you
Oh,
need
no.
to know, but
Oh, no problem.
anyway, the thing was that I didn't see anything in what I read through, and the only reason I printed off the 90 pages was so that I could see the entire
Signatories?
signatories, but also the just
This is statement.
the table of contents
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
with all of the names on them, like
Sure.
who's there, and the very last section was international trade, and in that section there were two opposing views, but they were each represented by, and I haven't read those yet, but anyway, one of those was the guy who said fair trade. That's different from free trade. Okay, free trade is free trade. That's what we've had for the last 10 years, or close on to it. With
Mulroney, NAFTA.
Yeah, NAFTA, and of course the joke is that it was Trump that signed it.
Well, you signed the most recent one, yeah.
Yeah.
And recently he said, I don't know who signed this or who made these deals.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah.
Oh, anyway, I just for my own mental health.
Interesting.
Which is quite typical of what we see in him.
And that's some good life wisdom, I think, for all of us, is when politics gets a little too hot and it starts to dominate our headspace, then it's good to take a step back.
Well, but on the flip side of that, you have to be prepared, and you have to have done your homework to know exactly how to battle these guys. And,
But what'd you think of Carney, though?
well, I don't know yet.
He's on page 25, so come back to him in a month.
It depends who you talk to, because you hear from this figure in England that says he was disastrous there.
Who says that?
Oh, I forget. She was some British
A
woman.
former prime minister
It might have been a former prime minister, yeah, in England.
who said that his reign as Bank of England governor was not so rosy, but
Yeah,
I
she
mean,
was
it
very-
depends on, I'm sure it depends on who
She
you ask.
can't understand why Canada would look to him as a leader. But who am I? Who am I?
Well, he's got a lot of international experience, for sure.
Well, he knows a thing or two about finance and about economics. But
Yeah.
well, we'll see. But who else have we got?
I don't know if he knows much about Canadian Parliament yet, though. It's a different beast
Well,
when you're sitting in the House of Commons and answering questions.
Well, he's been in government before.
Yeah, who is he working?
Not elected
No,
government,
he's
though.
never been elected.
No,
Never
but he was
elected,
a finance.
Yes.
Head of finance and so on.
Right.
Bank of Canada.
Yeah,
But
sitting in Parliament
Oh yeah.
and
No,
taking questions
Or
in question
directly
period.
being heckled, and
Sure.
can you handle all that?
No,
He
that-
worked-
Yeah.
That's a
he
very
worked
good
with
question.
Stephen Harper for a bit, did he?
Yeah,
As
Harper.
Bank of Canada
Yeah.
governor
Yes.
during
No,
the
but-
Harper years
yeah, but
and
he worked-
through the 08
but he worked,
recession.
he
yeah.
worked when he was just getting started. Well, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but Polyev, you know, he's a young guy who wants to be prime minister.
Mhm.
Can you think of anything other than that?
It's all so,
And who are his cabinet?
Mm.
yeah.
Well, who would the Liberal cabinet be too? I mean, so many of them, they've had 8 or 10 of them resign,
Well-
saying they're not running again.
A lot are returning.
Some are returning, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know.
It-
I think there'll be a lot of new faces, let's just put it that way,
Mhm.
even among the Liberals.
Yeah. You've got some interesting headlines with some candidates in Vancouver. In our world, we've got Mayor Gregor Robertson.
I heard
You
about that.
might remember his name. He's running in Vancouver somewhere. And another one, I might be the only one to know this name, but Evan Solomon, who's been a journalist on.
Yes, I know that name.
He was on CBC for years, and then he went to CTV after a scandal, and he's running for the Liberals in Toronto. So they're getting some high-profile candidates for sure.
But I think it is an existential cabinet that we're going to have, whoever they are, because Trump isn't going to go away.
No, it'll be 4 long years.
Well, and really one of the worst things is that if he got shot, because his vice president is even worse.
He's pretty aggressive. Yeah.
Vance.
Yeah.
So what do you think he, any of you, like Trump's talking, this is a bit of a different subject now, but he was of course trying to exercise a peace deal then between Russia and Ukraine. And he says is to help avert World War III. So like do you see that as a possibility? Like I'm thinking who are Putin's allies is China and North Korea and like,
Well,
is that just a scare tactic?
It's impossible to know, isn't it?
Yeah, is there something we don't know?
There's something. Well, Trump admires guys with a lot of power,
Right.
who act on their own. So he's a fascist. And do you guys ever watch the travel programs that are put on and by a guy named Rick Steves? Does that
Yeah.
name mean anything to you?
I've perused his website.
I've heard
many
it,
times.
If you watch PBS,
Yeah.
you will have seen Rick Steves' visits in strictly in Europe.
Yep.
Yeah. And
It's travel logs.
travel logs,
Yeah.
and he sells books. You
Yeah, yeah,
That's his main income probably is from the books.
Yeah.
But then he leads his own groups over there on occasion as well. So, and he's been doing it for a long time. And he's based somewhere in the Northwest. And anyway, he's been. Well, anyway, he actually, if you went onto YouTube, you could see all kinds of different of his programs that typically he's aired on PBS, but a lot of those are actually on PBS. So you just keep. Well, you get YouTube?
Oh,
We
yeah.
do.
Yeah.
But
Well,
we
you
do
could
the
just
same thing with
you could
you.
just do a search for Rick Steves.
Okay.
And then what he did some years ago, he, just because it was something to do with Europe and it might interest American travelers, he put together a special tour of Germany's fascist sites. That these would be places you could visit, which were still in existence, and which still could tell part of the story of how Hitler came to power. And you would find that he has a tour about, and it's on YouTube. But that isn't what I want to talk about. He put another one together, which has to do with fascism, but it has an inward looking, and what you would watch is nothing more than old movies of the 3 European fascist leaders in the 20th century, and how they came to power, and what were the steps they took to get there, and how did it all work?
Mussolini and Stalin?
Yeah. Must be
No,
Stalin.
no.
Oh, not
Not
Stalin.
not Stalin, right?
That's not Stalin. It started with Mussolini, followed by Franco in Spain, followed by Adolf Hitler. Okay? And
Spain, forgot about that. Okay.
Stalin was another story, and he would be called a fascist. because the communist system was still not one-man rule.
Mhm.
It sounded like it most of the time, but it wasn't. It was about 10-man rule
Yeah.
or something
Well,
like that, you know.
yeah.
The party.
The inner party.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, he put all this together, and at the end of the whole thing, he said, I just would like you at home in America to be looking at this thing carefully and look at all the things you saw and see if you don't recognize any of the
Yeah.
steps along the way. Because Hitler was determined, and in fact, he wrote this all up in his book called Mein Kampf,
Mhm.
that I've never read.
Right.
But he wrote that while he was in prison because his first insurrection failed,
Mhm.
and so they sent him to prison for 3 years. Then he got out, and he just took
Wow. Wow.
why they ever let him out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they knew what he was going to be doing. But they always thought, well, he's just a pipsqueak, you know.
Mhm.
That's no problem.
He's not even German. He's not very popular.
Yeah, but you know that was it. He got himself elected, and once he got elected, then he got himself up to the head of the party. Then he got the socialist. Anyway, I didn't want to bore you with the litany.
No, it's not
All
boring
this
at
No.
all.
all of this
Fascinating.
stuff is a reminder of how it worked in the 30s. And then once he gets into power, what does he do? Well, he's got a whole bunch of people around, and of course he's not that overt about the Jews at the beginning,
Mhm.
because a lot of the industrial kingpins that would help him raise the industrial level of capacity of the whole thing were Jews. And they're fine. He didn't mind those kinds of Jews at all. The guys with a lot of money.
Right.
And so he started arming. And he was keeping them all busy. Everybody was happy because of full employment, and everybody's got a job. Hey, this is wonderful. And they're making tanks and guns and airplanes and
Wow.
and submarines and all that.
Breaking Versailles.
And breaking Versailles, but that was sort of a given, because most Germans thought that it was unfair.
Mhm. Yeah.
But anyway, for a German, that was easy to do.
Yes. Yeah. No problem there. They hated.
Everybody, yeah.
They hated Versailles.
So then he said, well, he really needs more territory, so we'll just annex. Well, we're going to annex Austria first. In Austria, you could hardly tell the difference between the two countries anyway. You know, it was a little bit like the U.S. and Canada, right?
Hello.
Hello. And you didn't even have to use guns; you just walked in. Because
Well,
everybody knew who would win, you know.
Yeah, and consider our defense. You know, our Canadian
Well, he's
defense.
talking.
Yeah, I know, but
Oh, I see.
comparatively, you
Well,
know,
comparatively, our
yeah, they
defense
could
is,
just walk in, you know.
yeah, our defense is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, and then he became a bit more overt in breaking international rules, and you know, and then he started in the Czechoslovakia and
Czechs and
On
Poles.
an eco trip.
then the war was on. But anyway, it was a really it was a healthy reminder for anybody to read, and I don't hesitate to suggest to anybody to do that, because you won't stay awake, because it's all history.
Mhm.
And it's history, that particular history ain't gonna be repeated.
Mhm.
But
What
something like it.
Yes, yes.
What I have faith in is that the Weimar Republic was so weak when Hitler came to power. He was able to sort of push people and constitutions aside and bend rules here and there. My hope is that in the U.S. the respect for the Constitution is still so strong that, for example, like a key I would be truly worried if there was broad support for a third term, which would be a clear violation, right? But
But that's
I have to believe that at the end of this term, he's out, and there's no.
that's 3.5 years away,
Yes.
and a lot of water on the
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of damage.
Yeah.
And right now, he well, he's got a clear majority.
Mm-hmm. Both houses.
Oh, of course, there's people around that would like to have a recount, but forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a clear majority in both houses. The midterms coming up in 2022
Mm-hmm.
could change that.
Right.
It's possible.
Yeah,
And
probably.
the best thing we can hope for is that that gets changed.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, the pecking order is what? President, vice president, leader of the House,
Mm-hmm.
for who's going to be in charge.
Mm-hmm.
On the side of it, you have the court system. Well, here's Trump disobeying
Yes.
relatively small.
That was ominous. Yeah. It's like a test.
Getting away with it.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he himself, he'd like to say, I put those 5 jurists onto the Supreme Court. He'd like to say that. He certainly put their names forward and promoted them.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to believe that they were qualified jurists
Mm-hmm.
to get that far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
But at what point do those people's conscience say, well, we can't let this guy go any further?
Mm-hmm.
Then it comes down to this, 5 people in the Supreme Court. 5 out of 9. The others would be dependable for
Mhm.
putting him down, but those 5 would be in question.
Do you both know what Uncle John is talking about with him ignoring the court order?
Yeah, I do.
That's only, I think it's multiple now.
Probably.
A little concerning
Yeah.
because the 3 arms of government have to work together, and his accusation is, of course, it's constantly activist judges and politically motivated. And
Well, he has, of course, by sending Elon Musk into the thing,
oh,
of course, that's a huge miscalculation by Trump, of course.
and by Musk.
Well, and by Musk. Well,
He's
Musk
destroying-
is already felt I guess he still is on paper still the richest man in the world, but
Well, we are, Uncle John, we are happy.
It's your turn. You go. You go.
We're happy Tesla owners, but
oh, you are.
I will be unhappy. We've had it for 5 years, and it's been fantastic for my commuting into Vancouver.
Well,
but
sure, of course, yeah.
and of course, very cheap to run. But
As long as he isn't doing auto work when he's on the road, not looking at anything at all.
yeah.
Because the car is driving him.
But
Well,
yeah, I hope it doesn't end up in my car getting keyed or.
yeah, exactly.
or-
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. And
Yeah.
that's a very great risk right now.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, for sure.
but but that was a diversion. He made a mistake with that guy, putting him into what is
Doge.
ripping things across. Well, but I don't know that everybody would understand. But the president doesn't control all of the civil service. He controls most of it, but there are departments that aren't. They report to Congress, and the foreign aid, the U.S. aid, okay,
Right.
is one of those.
Oh.
And here he is cutting off the foreign aid.
And that's
Just like that.
one of the
And
cases.
it's Congress's job.
And that's where the justices are telling him that he's.
Yes, that's right. That's one of them. There's another one
Yeah.
too that's
Yeah,
similar. So anyway,
So, shifting a little bit to international affairs, not international affairs, thinking of you as a world traveler as well. I talked earlier about Canada. What's one country that you visited that you thought was particularly remarkable or maybe changed your thought about the world?
Big question.
well, there's 2 questions actually because we spent 2.5 years in New Zealand,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to say that is a great place to live. People have very, very successfully integrated the Maori into their. In fact, while we were there, one of the federal government tried to set up a separate health program or something for Maori in one particular area, and he got just fired immediately. We don't do that. The Maori are integrated.
No segregation.
No.
Interesting.
It isn't actually easy because the Maori, like any other groups that didn't grow up in Europe,
Right.
they have different values, but for the most part, the whole thing works well.
Well, it makes sense.
but
It
they're-
just makes sense.
But they're smart people, and they're very low key, but they're very smart. And the fact that they are one of the Five Eyes, okay,
Right.
gives you a sense of trust of how the other four view them. That they're very steady, and they single-handedly found out, who it was that blew up the Greenpeace boat that was it was parked in the Wellington Harbor, and anyway, it mysteriously got blown up. Well, it was in town because it was in the South Pacific on the occasion of French atmospheric atomic tests, which were a no-no.
For sure.
But France was going ahead with that, and Greenpeace was there in order to get they're going to get the boat positioned in such a way that that they couldn't in any conscience blow up Greenpeace. So anyway, it turned out that some undercover guys, some frogmen went in and planted some explosives and blew it up in the harbor. And it was the New Zealander police on their own figured out who'd done it, and it was two officers of the U.S. of the
their Navy?
of the French Army.
Oh, the French Army. Okay.
They were the two guys. They were the two bad guys, and they got convicted for life and sent off to some atoll.
Wow.
But then subsequently they got repatriated to Paris on as we all have. Like if you do something really bad, if we have similar laws in my country and not yours, and yours, then we can
Send
move you to
them back
my
home.
country as long as you serve your time.
Yeah.
So sure, that's what they did.
Okay.
They repatriated to France, and they spent their lives on another atoll.
Yeah, I was going to say, French prisons
different
are not
atoll.
exactly something you would relish.
Oh, I'm sure it wasn't like with Riley. They
No.
probably had their own.
What's the term for that treaty when countries agree to send people suspected of a crime back to their home country? One of you will know the term I'm thinking of. Extradition.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, there's New Zealand, and their only problem is that they don't have much population. There are only 5 million people, and
Oh, that's not much.
not a lot of there's a lot of wool,
Keep everybody warm.
a lot of cows and dairy milk,
There you go.
and
Yeah, what more do you need?
a lot of tourism.
Mm-hmm.
Christine, have you got a question?
No.
She's getting tired.
Well, tell us a bit more about your kids. Anything? Give us updated
Bring it back to the Russells.
reports.
Well, things have been pretty static.
Okay.
Peter's been on this job in Shenzhen for over 4 years now.
That's amazing.
And he just started a 4-year extension to us.
Well, I brag about him a lot. When I see some amazing building, I think of my cousin.
Well, it's an interesting thing when he was being. We talked back and forth a lot when he was being recruited, and they came after him. They came looking for him.
Wow.
He's not that well known here, but in
Okay.
Europe he's quite well known. And he has a Rolodex of about 8,000 people that are potential candidates for, for a job.
Wow. Wow.
So,
He has his pick.
so that might have helped because his job was to build a faculty, so.
Okay.
And COVID was on, but at the same time we had the two Canadians that were being held captive in China.
Right.
The two Michaels.
Yeah,
Right.
and his situation was a little different, but he still got awful feelings about it,
Yeah, yeah.
He has to be careful what he says.
What they did, however, they said, well, here's the deal. You get what it's called peacock status, and that gives you a permanent visa. You come and go, otherwise your visa has to be renewed every
Okay.
frequently. And you can come and go with that visa quite freely. And so he's adapted. I mean, it's a bigger adaptation to get into their food, their diet.
Yeah.
So foreign to us all.
Very different.
That's probably the case.
Yeah, for sure.
But, and the thing is that the university is supposed to be English speaking, so they recruited an English speaking
Oh.
dean to head it up,
Interesting.
and for this faculty, and it's a graduate school only. It's not an undergraduate school.
Okay.
And
Wow.
so during COVID, well, it wasn't really English speaking, but now after COVID's all settled, it will be.
Mm-hmm.
And his most of his staff. Actually, he recruited a guy from Calgary here.
Wow.
Another
That's
guy he
amazing.
recruited from one of his first recruits was a Catholic priest. Now, not just a Catholic priest. What is their missionary
Oh, the
order?
Jesuit?
Jesuit priest. Oh, people.
Wow.
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 And he'd been in China before, and he was an old China hand,
Okay.
and he was quite
Oh.
interested. Turned out the guy turned out to be not terribly appropriate because he argues and he's always complaining about how things aren't right,
Oh,
and
sure.
things that should be done differently aren't
Yeah.
available to do that way. Well,
Yeah.
that's part of the job.
Yeah. 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 No, I hear you.
That's
Interesting.
what Peter's done now.
Yeah.
So
What does he think of life in China? I'm so curious about just his day to day and.
he would disqualify himself from being able to talk about it because he doesn't, not from the standpoint of freedom to talk, but he just has so little contact with anything other than his academia.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Sure.
He would feel that he's not qualified to.
Well, see, there's a lot of Westerners in Shenzhen. There's a lot of companies, Western companies,
Okay.
that have offices and a lot of people there. So there's a lot of English spoken in the city.
Mm.
There's about 15 million people now.
A little bit like me in Hong Kong.
Well, of course it is, and basically it's just a stone's throw from Hong
Sure.
Kong. But it's under different rules. Hong Kong has still got the semblance of independence,
Sure.
which is only a semblance.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Interesting. Now he's got a girlfriend. Is it Louise? Are they still
Yeah.
together?
yeah, and
Okay.
she lives in Paris.
Oh.
So whenever they get together, it's my place or yours.
Whatever works.
Wow.
Wow. And then, so Tim, I was telling my Tim here about how you can track your son on the water there, right?
Well, yeah, but he was in Chile for better part over a year,
Oh, wow.
and
Wow. Like right on the mainland, you mean?
well, yeah, in Patagonia. So,
Oh.
Sure.
so-
Legendary.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I think our other son Peter and his wife vacationed down there, and I think they got through there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he went down there but he went there from French Polynesia.
Okay.
So they sailed across, and they sailed under, south of Easter Island. But he'd been to Easter Island
Cool.
before. He'd done a nonstop from one of the Mexican ports to there, and it was 27 days. Easter Island is one of the most remote places, you know. And so anyway, that when he was, you know, he loves the Marquesas, you know, where they are, and so that'd be his idea of retirement would be.
So he's still shuffling back to, or at least maybe,
Well,
does he?
He's still a trial lawyer, and he's,
Yeah.
but he works only on appeals, and
Okay.
an appeal lawyer builds his case on the basis of the record. He's
Okay.
got all the records of the boat.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was just gonna say there's
Okay.
probably a lot.
So he does all the homework, and he gets
Sure.
paid for the homework.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Wow.
It's all billable hours.
And, all billable hours, and of course he's up at the top of the, depending on, and what he's working on is a really heinous thing. So,
Mm.
and it's a big case, because it's all political too. You know.
Mm. Wow.
I hesitate to try and.
Sure. And so he's looking for procedural mistakes
Yes.
that the courts, yeah,
Procedural
or in
or proof of bias.
yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
so anyway, that's what pays the bills. So the thing is, when he's in Victoria, he just lives on his boat, works away there nonstop, doesn't even have a car.
Yeah.
Takes a taxi to go to court.
Yeah. We were on the boat one
Were
time.
you on his
Yeah.
boat once? Yeah.
You went on the boat?
Maybe with us, I think.
We were on the boat.
Yeah, we.
I was.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not thinking of the wrong wife here.
No. Well,
Yeah, I think you were
Did
with us.
you not visit? Did you and I not visit Timothy in the harbor?
Yeah, we had fish and chips on his boat.
Okay, we'll go back in the archives later and figure that out. But anyway, I was for sure.
yeah.
Could be.
You might
Well,
have,
that's very interesting.
it might have
though.
been just the three of us.
Okay.
I don't
Oh,
know.
I was just gonna say something, but I better not because you're recording it later.
Later, off the record. Yeah, well, that's the miracle of the internet, right? That he can do all this homework in a harbor,
From home.
in a Chilean harbor, and
I'm working from home on the boat
Well, it's
off
not just
Chile.
showing, but it's all, he had a run at going around the Horn, but he ran out of time, he had to be back for the agreement was that we delayed the celebration of life for over a year, because he was trying to get 3 kids together in
Yes.
the same place. You know?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so anyways, he was on record, I'm gonna be there, well, so he flew from San Diego nonstop